Welcome to Frankly Speaking with Sendra D, where we dive deeply and help you wake up to the essence of what it means to live a real, authentic, affluent life. Beyond the balance sheets, the bank accounts, the private jets, the political offices, into the realm of inner wealth and personal power. I'm Sendra D, your companion guide on this trajectory of truthful self-mastery as we celebrate your individuality and your sovereignty. Hello, everyone. As you know, we are on a journey for another fantastic episode of Frankly Speaking with Sendra D. My name is Sendra D. I'm so excited to be here today. And of course, I try to bring you to the edge of your chair with the guest that I have the privilege of interacting with. Today, I have Mr. Richard Walsh, who is an ex-Marine. He is the CEO of Sharpen the Spear Coaching. What he does, his mission is to honing entrepreneurial warriors on the battlefield of business. So I guess entrepreneurs like me, and trust me, the business world is a battlefield. And I want to say welcome to the podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing awesome, Sandra. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to this.
Fantastic. Let the audience know who you are. So after 20 years in business at the top of your game, you had lost everything, and including your home. You know, at the same time, you were married, you had 6 children, all these kids under the age of 4. Were they twins? I'm doing the math.
Yes, couple sets.
Okay. And so we'll have to talk about that. And as a Marine, you were also a champion boxer, black belt. And, you know, you say you're not a fan of losing. Nobody is. Can you tell? I am so alpha. It's like, you know, I will double down, triple down. And so until God calls me back, God pulls me out of the ring. But you connected the dots, and there were a lot more that you wanted to do to rebuild and regain success. And the next thing you knew, you were helping other people create businesses. And so the pillars of your platform are faith, family, finance, fitness, and friendships. I love that. And so you even wrote a bestseller book called Escape the Owner Prison. I think we're living that prison right now. And so, you know, you were helping business owners understand the power of business ownership and how they can balance their lives with the necessary duties to create a successful business. So I'm going to stop telling the audience, and there's no better way to get to know someone by them telling the audience directly. Tell us who you are. What did I miss? What would you like them to know about you?
Well, it's a long story because I've been around for a long time. So I got to do a lot of things. So yeah, I'm also an internationally recognized steel sculptor. So I've done world-class exhibits and really cool stuff and commissions. And I did that as well. I'm a very self-taught individual on all this stuff. So was never really good at school. Typical public school thing. That didn't work real well for me. I knew what I wanted. Well, actually, I didn't know what I wanted, but I knew what I didn't want, which I think is more important. Knowing what you don't want is the best place to start, because you won't waste any time with that. And tell my kids, you don't have to know what you want to do, but know exactly what you don't want to do. And if you know what you don't want to do, you don't get pulled into it. You can avoid it, and it makes it very easy to focus on what could be a very great future. So I have that. But yeah, served in the Marine Corps, got out of that, started working. And I was swinging a pickaxe, digging trench in Tucson, Arizona in 100-degree heat for a big $5 an hour. That seemed to be my new future out of the Marine Corps. I don't know if I stepped up or stepped down from the Marine Corps here. So I really didn't know what was going to go on, but I had to work, get a job. But the good news, Sandra, is someone asked me to do a side job and said, hey, I need you to move some granite. So in Arizona, it's like 3/4 inch crushed granite and stuff. And you got to use that instead of grass. So they had 35 tons of it on the street, and they made a wheelbarrow it into the backyard and spread it. I said, well, I can do that. I swing a pickaxe all day. So I bought a wheelbarrow and a shovel with my last $85 before payday. Went over and did this in about 10 hours in 100-degree weather. Got it done. And here's the best part, Sandra. They put $1,000 cash in my hand for doing that work. And I'm looking at that going, wow, I basically did the same thing yesterday for $50.
Right.
I think I know my future.
Yep.
I think I'm going to work for myself from this point on. And it changed everything. And then it's like, I'll be a landscaper or whatever it is, but I'm going to get to keep all the money
Yep.
and
The
I'm going to
bottom
work very
line.
hard. Yes. That was the beginning of the entrepreneurial journey for me. And I loved ever since. I built a custom water feature business. I became internationally recognized or nationally award winner. I mean, publications, articles, all the cool stuff, right? I really became great at what I did. 0809 came by, financial collapse. That took out my business as well. Well, it didn't. It just was the indicator showing me the things I didn't do in my business that
Hmm.
really caused it to collapse. So I take ownership on that for sure. But then I had to restart. So again, 6 small children under 4. That was interesting too. And I had to rebuild and regain. But I didn't want to do what I originally did that first 20 years. So not only that to restart, it wasn't restarting the same business. It was coming up with the next thing. So that was a challenge in itself. And my wife, she had gotten married when I was, I'm air quoting, successful, right? So she was in the good stuff.
Hmm.
And then we hit the bad stuff, which is hard enough. But
Sure.
then if you haven't been through the business building process before, it's no fun at all. So
Hmm.
now she has to go through that.
Right.
It's really difficult. So I really put her and raise 6 children. Okay. At the same time, dealing with me trying to,
Bless your heart.
yeah, bless her heart. So it all came together. I started doing new businesses, do them the way I wanted to do them without sacrificing everything for the business.
Hmm.
Because the big epiphany I had, just to kind of clarify the story, was in '08, going into '09, I woke up one morning thinking about my kid and all run to me and they'll attack me and grab onto me and love to see me. And even one time I'm leaving and driving in my truck out the driveway, and my one son is running down the driveway crying as my truck leaves. I'm looking at that in the rearview mirror. I'm like, man, what am I doing? So the epiphany was I'm laying there, I go, my kids don't really care what kind of house we live in. They don't care what I
Hmm.
do. They don't care how many trucks I have. All they want was me to be around.
Hmm.
I'm like, wow. I said, if I keep going down this path of business first, business is everything.
Right.
Again, I want to win. I want to succeed. I go,
Of course.
I'm gonna ruin their futures. They're gonna have broken marriages, bad relationships. They may succeed in business, but every other aspect of their life will be destroyed because of what I showed them, not what I told them,
Hmm.
but what I showed them, because more is caught than taught. Right.
Absolutely.
So I'm like, that's it. And I walked in the office to my office and said, we're done. We're done today. Went to my yard with my guys. The guys were wrapping things up. We're finished. And they were pretty shocked, but I'm like, it's going under anyways. I said, but I'm not going to continue this and I'm never going to do this again. I'm not going to live this way. I'm going to be around for my kids, around for my wife. I'm still going to do business because that's what I know. And
Hmm.
I'm really not employable anymore because I've worked for myself too long. I'm not going to work for someone else. I'll be a great employee for about 12 months. And then either I need to run your company or I got to leave. Okay. Because you're doing it all wrong. So that's kind of how I was. And again, it all worked out. I was able to be around my kids. We homeschooled them all the way through high school.
Oh,
Yeah.
fantastic.
So it's just an amazing, that collapse was like so, I'm just going to call it God ordained. Get successful, fill your ego up, be all this, think it's all about you. Watch me take it all away and become a good man. Become a truly good man and do things the way you should and provide for your family and be with your family and just grow closer to God and everything else. That's what I did. So that was the best thing that ever happened, losing everything.
I
You know,
bet. Well, I'm sure your kids will listen to this and be reminded of all you not give up, but the choices you made, they were instrumental in helping you make up your mind. Well, I know that's very important. So speaking of mind, can you tell about what is the Marine Corps mindset? What are these core principles that shape you?
well, we have our one of our mottos, Semper Fidelis, which means always faithful. Okay. And it's so apropos. It's so fitting because I am that way, right? I'm committed
Hmm.
to things. I'm committed to my marriage. I'm committed to my business. I'm committed to my children, right? Things that I do, I am faithful to this stuff. Of course, I'm always faithful to God and I want to be that way. So, matter of fact, my oldest son, who's 19, he's just graduating School of Infantry in the Marine Corps. So now he's
Hmm.
been in about 6, 7 months now too. So he's going down that road as well. But I think the mindset is, it really is about accomplishing the mission at all costs. So you really, it's the whole failure, not an option thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like some people say that and they put it in one situation. I go, that's every situation.
Mm-hmm.
I don't pick situations. I'm like, no, there's no failure at all. You may fail, okay, but the goal is to achieve always. I
Absolutely.
don't do plan Bs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm A only, and we're going to accomplish it, right?
That's
And
fantastic.
the Marine Corps mindset, the troubles in the Marine Corps, especially during wartime, is well, you do have an option. It's to die. Okay, so it's accomplish the mission or die. All right, so it's pretty black and white there, right? So we're going to accomplish the mission and live. That's the goal. So that's the mindset I took into business because I have the resiliency, the perseverance to get it
Mm-hmm.
done. I can suffer, like, and it's really weird, Sendra. I'm truly drawn to suffering. I do really hard sports like one-on-one boxing,
Mm-hmm.
all this stuff like we knock each other out. Like I have plates and wires and a new nose and all kinds of stuff
Oh
in my
my
head
goodness.
because that was the sport. And I
Right.
just, that's what happened. So, but I just love that. Even running, right? It's all suffering.
Mm-hmm.
If you run 3 miles, 5 miles, 26 miles, it's just suffering. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just something I'm drawn to. So I think that's also part of the mentality. And as my son goes through this and I talk to him each week and what he's suffering through in training because it's very, very difficult now. But he loves it. He totally
So
gets it.
where is he serving?
He's in the Marine Corps at Camp Pendleton right now. He's
You
going
must
to
be
be,
so proud.
yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, he's going to
So,
Quantico, Virginia next in about a week and then to MSG school. And then he's probably shipping off to Africa
mm-hmm.
to do embassy duty and stuff because he's
Oh,
in
that's
the
it. Tell him be
security
safe, be
forces.
careful.
Yeah.
So Quantico is not where is that the FBI or is that CIA?
The CIA's all there.
Oh, tell him to
Okay.
stay away
They're
from
all
those
there.
people.
Yeah.
Oh,
He'll be busy. He'll be busy.
they will flag this podcast. I am one of those enemy within the border, but I love all intelligence. Is if it's intelligent. But anyway, but let's talk a bit about leadership. Cause so you were a leader, you went in, you became a leader. You know, this podcast is all about leadership style. And I want to talk about the leadership style that you develop as a Marine, but also how you transition that into the business world. But also I have a few questions for you about modern day leaders, but let's talk about more about
Okay.
your leadership style that you develop in the Marines.
You bet. So one thing you learn in the Marine Corps for sure is chain of command, right? So you get from your privates to your sergeant majors, or you have your lieutenants to your, 4-star generals. So the chain of command is important, but leadership, right? You understand who you're under, who you're under submission with, right? So from a corporal, it's a sergeant, a staff sergeant, a gunnery sergeant, right? But what you also learn in the Marine Corps, and I'm going to speak for the Marine Corps, that's what I know,
Mm-hmm.
not the other branches. But if I'm a corporal and I have a sergeant above me, the sergeant is taken out for whatever reason, I have to step up in that place.
Mm-hmm.
And then if I'm taken out as a corporal, the lance corporal now steps up in my place. You'll hear stories in Vietnam where lance corporals were running the entire platoons.
Mm-hmm.
They're in E3, right? They could have been in a year,
Mm-hmm.
or less, and they're running whole platoons because that's how we're trained.
Right.
So that leadership, what I took with that in business, I believe the best leaders create more leaders.
Absolutely.
Okay. So I'm training people to be a leader.
Correct.
Because if I'm going to stay out front and beat my own chest and say, look at me, okay, I'm not doing anyone any favors. There's
Right.
only one of me. I can be taken out in a heartbeat, right? And from a business standpoint, I want multiple points of leadership throughout my business, regardless of its size, right? So if I'm not training these people up, and I believe there's a time to lead from the front, and there's a time to be looking at the entire chessboard and moving people around, right? So the people think you're always out front, that's wrong. And the people think you're always in the rear, that's wrong too. You have to be able to deliver on both fronts. You have to be able to get out, take them, follow me, let's get this done in the right situations. The other one is you have to be back making really difficult decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And where you're putting people, what moves you're making, what resources are you allocating to achieve this or to achieve that. So that mindset, which I think is done so well in the Marine Corps, really transferred very well into business. So it really helped me see where I got to go, how I got to grow, how I'm going to scale, what's the strategy. So we teach a lot of strategy. We try to get our business owners free from the day to day so they can focus on what we call their 5%. That's the 5% of things only they can do. One of those is strategy. Right? They understand the vision. They understand where the company wants to go. So they need to be able to focus on that, get up to 30,000 feet to see the whole battlefield. Then they can make quality decisions. So that's where I'm at on the leadership part there.
Well, that's fantastic. So I'm going to give you a mission now. So if I were to assign you, stationed to Washington, D.C., not as a Marine, but as a coach, and because we're having a little crisis right now in Washington, a little crisis management is needed. So if you were a coach and you went up to DC about moving pieces, there's a chessboard in Washington, and there are a lot of pieces moving on this board. And I'm going to leave you to free flow it. I'm not going to give you names or, positions. How would you reposition this in a way that's more effective for this brand? The brand is the United States of America, right? And the stakeholders are the Americans. So as a coach, knowing that's what's happened in the last couple of weeks, I'm going to keep it small, and I'm not going to take you way back because we should really go 10 years. But we're going to keep it small just in the last couple of weeks because there have been a lot of moving pieces. Richard, tell me, how would you move this chessboard? I mean, who would you remove? I'm just saying hypothetically. I'm not talking about doing away with anyone. Who would you remove? Who would you keep in place? How would you reposition Washington, D.C. to make it work on behalf of the stakeholders? Because I don't think the stakeholders are benefiting. Anyway, the stakeholders that are paying these employees in Washington, how would you take that?
I don't know if there's a legitimate way to do it. I can tell you my fantasy.
Okay? Tell me your fantasy. And this is Frankly Speaking with Sendra D.
What I would really like in the voting booth is you go in and you can pick who you want, whatever. But then to the right, there's a big wooden lever, and you can just pull the lever down, and 535 people disappear from the Senate. They're just gone.
Push restart, right?
Push restart. We start over again because anybody's better.
Absolutely.
Anybody. I
remember the Batmobile. Didn't Batmobile like eject people from the car?
That's right.
Like eject somebody. Right. Yeah, I'm with you.
I want the floor to drop out.
Yeah, whoosh, I'm with you. There was that earthquake in Haiti. Unfortunately, a lot of people lost their lives. But I was like, they didn't deserve it. I know who does deserve to have. I'm not calling ill, or I'm not wishing any ill on anyone, but you've got to be, anyone can do better than this, because it just keeps, it's like, you pull a thread and you think you can maintain the sweater, and it just pulls, and next thing you know, you got nothing. Well, I'm thinking that there's a thread being pulled for the United States of America. There's not going to be much left to do. And if this plan is in place, I would like someone to bring me into the know and let me know, do I need to relocate? Do I need to go somewhere else? Because it doesn't look like this can be sustainable. I always think that somebody is laughing somewhere, sometime, looking at this satire, because the United States has become a satire. So for me, I'm a capitalist. I don't apologize for it. I'm in business. So you tell me, because you've got two things. You have a business mindset, and you also have a Marines mindset. So the breach, I would hate to have to observe or be in the audience with the world as it is now, because you served at a time when the U.S. was a major superpower, right? That was in the 80s. So where did we go wrong? What happened here?
Well, you have to understand. So it really is about Marxism and communism. Now, that march has been going on for 100 years in this country. This isn't new. This didn't creep up 10 or 20 years ago. This is all part of a long-term plan. Soviets, communism, they are long-term thinkers. The Rockefellers, they're long-term thinkers. Most people are thinking about like what they're going to have for lunch. These guys are thinking 100 years ahead, and how to change everything, how to change culture, right? How to make everyone hate their own country, how to divide everybody, how to degrade everyone's passions, how to turn them into just demoralize. And yes, not just, and that word demoralize is also remove all morals.
Right.
Right. They want to remove all morals. They want to use what they call the useful idiots of all these offshoots. They use them with division, and then they group them all together, and they use them. Then of course they'll throw them away when they achieve their goals. So this is in a public school system. It's in the church. It's in the military. It's all the major institutions, right? So they understand that. So they had to infiltrate those major institutions. And even now, the military has also been infiltrated by that. When you go to the very top,
Breaks
they're
my heart.
Marxists. They are confessing Marxists. That's who's running the show. Okay, so trying to fix this, okay, and this is just my feeling. The only one who's going to do that is God Almighty, and that's going to be
Absolutely.
with the turning back to Him. Okay, when this country has to turn back to God, that's what has to happen. Turn back to Jesus, get that straight, and turn back what this country was founded on, those principles they were founded on, reinstitute the real Constitution, remove this lawlessness, absolute 100% lawlessness that we've experienced for definitely the last 4 years, but even longer than that. Like you said, a decade has been longer. They're just, no one is punished,
No
you
one.
know?
There's no accountability and no one
No.
because and I say to people, when I was a child, I would push the envelope, and I told you my dad was military. I would push and push and push, and my father would turn to my mother, was like, "Is this child ever gonna stop?" My mother's like, "Not until we tell her to stop." And there are consequences. You spoil her, so don't get me wrong. My father, the general, spoiled. I was his baby girl. I was the youngest. I got away with everything, and my siblings would complain on the sideline, you give her so much. And my mother was like, he's the one. He tells me that I'm at home with the kids, but when he comes home, he lets her have anything she wants, which is me. And so I apply that same principle to those. They are not adults. They're really not adults. I mean, I think those of us watching on the sidelines, when you have someone who doesn't have the concept of boundaries, right? It doesn't apply to just a country, besides the fact that the US no longer has boundaries boundaries gone from the US, but it applies to the human nature. It applies to this human spirit, to adults. Children, we have to grow into understanding what that is. But adults who really know that there are boundaries, but deliberately break those boundaries, knowing that even though they benefit from breaking those boundaries, but they don't care, and they only care about how what's in it for them really is what we're talking about here. Except, I always say to people, you know what? You may not be accountable this here, and I believe in karma. You're gonna have to make your maker either here or in the hereafter. I prefer to just be a good person. So what I wanted to mention to you is it's because people, why do they do what they do? They will do it until they can't anymore. And I do believe that we were given free will. We were given a choice in how we wanted this world to create this world. And it's not just the US. I think the US is an example for larger territories across the world. But I do feel that something spiritual about this land, where so much has transpired here in it, and while everyone was watching, I wanted to ask you, what do you think it's going to take for us to feel somewhat stable again in this country? Because everyone I talk to expresses the same. Maybe I just talk to too many people that think like me, but I'm thinking the world around us is watching. A, it's before COVID. Those watching us be extremely unstable, and they're thinking about their children and their grandchildren, what gonna leave behind, how that it's shaking at their core. We've been shaking at our core. So what do you think? I mean, as a coach, if I was to send you to Washington, what would you say? What's the advice besides putting the restart button? We don't really have an option. We'd have to fire
Right.
all of them
Right.
and start over again. Let's say we had, because I think everyone can be rehabilitated. So if you were put in charge of rehabilitating these people, what would you think as a coach, as a Marine who is like, you have all these precepts and rules? How would you begin? Who would you start with?
You really have to begin with, and I'll use what we talked about a little bit earlier, that suffering is going to be part of this. Okay. Part of this coaching program I'm going to implement, right? So you're going to prepare to suffer, right? You're going to suffer verbally. People are going to talk bad about you. You could suffer physically. Okay. You could be replaced from where you're at now and everything else. You're going to sacrifice a lot, because that's what true statesmen do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. They work, they become successful. They do that. Then what you're supposed to be doing in that position is giving back to the country, which is a sacrifice. It's not to enrich yourselves. So the things we're going to start doing is lobbyists are out. You're not taking money for this. You're going to have term limits, right? You're going to be here for 1 to 2 terms max, and you're out, you're back to the private sector. you will revert back. Okay. So there was a politician, I won't say his name, might have been Speaker of the House, but
I have a
okay,
feeling I know
he
who it
lives
is.
lives close to me. Okay. And we have a track meet and his kids are running it. My kids are running it. And he's, I have a concession stand. So he's making burgers. So he's helping, right? Now there's 6 black SUVs and Secret Service and all around, but he's flipping burgers. And I just was walking by and I glanced and said, I looked at him, he said, "Hey, getting ready to get back in the private sector, huh?" And I walked away because
Is
that's all
that the
you're
one
qualified.
that's on the board of Fox News?
I don't know. I don't even know.
Mm.
But the funny thing is, like, I'm like that. I told him that's all you're qualified for is burger flipping. You've worked in the public sector you've done nothing. You've done nothing that's worth anything. So I'm just saying my point is these people get in there, they enrich themselves, they go and make $176,000 a year. They come out 4, 6, 8 years later with net worth
Million.
of millions. So
And
like they're just taking the money, they're corrupt, and that's a problem. So my point is what we're going to do, the servant's going to come from, we're going to redevelop character. We're going to redevelop the character of the United States. We're going to bring integrity back in. We're going to prosecute every single person that has taken a dime and corrupt. Now, I know I'm living in a fantasy world,
you off with, I
but
was shaking my
but
head saying
but
that
but
is
but but
such
you asked
music
what
to my ears, but I'm
but
sorry. I'm not on the same hope platform that you are because I don't believe it will never happen.
But you asked me what I do as a coach.
I know. I
So
know.
this is
That
what I
would
would
be,
do.
you would.
I'll probably be assassinated in about the third hour of being employed. This is the plan will be there. It'll be there. But and I think short of that, the ship's too big to turn.
Right.
And the reason why I don't work with big corporations, because the ships are too big. There's too many players, too many manipulators, too many games. Okay, too much politics, right? To get here and move up the ladder and things like that. So they're not, I can't have an influence on them, nor do I want to.
Absolutely.
I want to work with the smaller units, 5 to 50 employees, under 500 employees, guys who are agile, right? Who can move and adapt and pivot and really make it move something that means something. So I want to help them change the country because we get enough of them doing the things the way I want to do it, and I can show them that can change the tide.
Absolutely. So, and I am someone who is proud to be a capitalist. I'm all about profits, but I do feel that you should always put people first.
Mhm.
People are the sort of the necessary legs of this chair for it to be steady. And without people, which can mean employees or just service providers, whatever it is, you've got nothing. You just have a very bad operating machine. But I want to talk to you now about your book, which is Escaping Owner Prison. And you talked about prison earlier, you put them all in jail. But so before they get to jail for breaking some law, federal, state, whatever law it
Right.
is, uh, government law. Let's talk about the prison, the owner prison that the title of the book is Escaping the Owner Prison. Tell us about this book and how you can implement these principles because a lot of these people are locked into their minds into how they can continue to fast pedal to get to the finish line. But that's not your philosophy. You don't feel like working harder is necessarily the end game to make a successful business.
Correct. So, a couple of things on that. So, escape the owner prison is really about you as a business owner not being able to get away from your business. You can't take a 2 week vacation because there won't be a business to come back to. If you don't open the door in the morning, the business doesn't begin. If you're not wearing 8 of the 9 hats, the business won't function. You've worked very hard the first 2 years because that's what it takes to get this business launched. But then next thing you know, 10 years has gone by. You've repeated the first 2 years 5 times. So you're on a hamster wheel in a prison. So you serve your business, it doesn't serve you. Totally backwards, right? You want to go see your kids play their athletics. You want to spend time with your wife.
Mhm.
You want to have a day off. You want to be able to leave the job, I'm air quoting, when your wife calls and needs you, but you instead of telling her I can't, I'm in the middle of working when it's your business
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
you can't leave. That's not a business.
Mhm.
You're in prison. You have
Correct.
to get permission from the jailer to get out. So we want to build a business that gives you that freedom. right? And that's through systemization. You automate, delegate, and eliminate. You put those three things into play at work so that others are running your business. You equip them, you give them the resources, you give them the knowledge. Remember, we talked about creating other leaders?
Mm-hmm.
That's why. Let them lead, let them run in their lane, build a lane that they can flourish in, not have to figure out how to operate. Right.
Yeah, so
So
it's
there,
really not being a micromanager and just
yeah,
sometimes allowing things to happen organically and trusting yourself to trust that you have a good team around you. A lot of times business owner projects their own fears and insecurity onto their staff and it creates chaos. So sometimes it's good to remove themselves from the situation. But let's talk about some of the challenges, the worst challenges that you've encountered as you were coaching someone. Let's take a case study. Like one of the worst situation that you've been in and then you were like, this is beyond help, but you managed to solve it anyway.
usually there's patterns to all these businesses that I work with, right? They're all suffering from basically the same thing. Now, the difference is going to be the individual owner. It's not you have a tricky business. I can fix any of that. That's the easy part. It's the head of the owner. I got to crawl inside there, and that can get kind of messy because the way they think, a lot of them started as what I call a technician or a
Mm-hmm.
craftsman. They did something very well for someone else and decided, like me, with my $1,000 in my hand, I can
Mm-hmm.
go do that. I can do it better. I'll go do it. And then so they do, but they never put the hammer down. They
Mm-hmm.
never put that, they never stopped doing that. Then they convince themselves their customers will only be happy if they do the work because they do it the best. And that's what they're paying for. That's the first big lie they tell themselves. Because if another guy, someone else can come up next to you and they're 95% as good as you, 97%, the customer will not know the difference, I assure you. And I had that from building water features. I'm the artist. I build the finest, right? But I've trained my guys for years. They can
Right.
work with me. One day I'm like, you guys got to do this. I got to go to these meetings. I painted it out on the ground, build it, put the waterfall towards the door there in the back patio. I'll see you later. I came back. I'm walking around the house. And here's what happens. The homeowner comes out of the back door, the woman of the house, and I'm looking at her and everything's finished. And she goes, it's beautiful. It's the most amazing thing I've ever seen. And I'm like, I'm free. They don't need me. And now I'm looking at it going, well, I would have put this here and I would have maybe moved that over here, but she's really happy, like
That's
beyond
fantastic.
happy. Right. So I learned right then in that moment, there we go. So now I have to take this and try to teach these owners, either have them have an experience like that. I have to like go like a child, take the hammer out of their hand.
Mm.
I demand that they don't get to do it. We're going to build a way for your people to get as good as you are,
Mm-hmm.
but they're going to start less than you because they're not you. I
Right.
said, and we're going to show them how to do it. And then I'm going to show you what your clients think. And we're going to talk to your clients after these guys do the work. And then we found out, oh, they got the same response I did with my guys. The people loved it because you have the system, you know how to do it. You just haven't taught anyone properly. So really getting that mindset to shift and have that ability to delegate and have trust and confidence in your team. But it's not just, gee, I hope they do a good job. You've built out the lane. You have expectations. You have all the job functions. They have all the boundaries, like we were just talking about. They know what's expected. They have pure accountability. They know the goal. They know where to go. They know how to operate. They know what they can and can't do. If they have that and they're good at what they do, like I said, 95% of you, how can they not win?
Right.
They can run full steam, go to the goal, make a touchdown, whatever you want to call it. They can do that again and again and again, and they'll love it. They'll be so happy because they
Mhm.
don't want to own a business. They want to work. They want to
That's
work and do the craftsman or whatever they are. They want to do it, but they want to be allowed to do it without interference. They just want to be great at it. Who doesn't want that as an owner?
correct.
And that was one of the biggest challenges we had to overcome is really getting people to understand that, like, you can do this. And when they do, all of a sudden, look, oh, you just saved 20 hours on the week, 20 hours of your week. I just gave you 20 hours back. You were working in 60 hours. Now, just one thing, you're at 40 hours. I go, give me 2 more months. I have you down to 15 hours.
Mhm.
Okay. Working on only the things that matter to the business that you have to do that no one else can do. I
Mhm.
said, in a 6 month time period, 12 months max, you're working 10, 12 hours a week in your business.
Mhm.
All the rest of the time is yours. And you're making more profit. And you're hiring the best people. And they're staying. Nobody's leaving. You don't have turnover. You have great retention. Now you're coming up with, hey, I got ways to give them more benefits. I can take care of my people. Our profit margins are way up. I can make impact in the community. I can go give. I can do things. I'm free to like make other people's lives better.
Or I could just do nothing.
Or you could do nothing. I'm not much into that. But what they will do will be by choice. And that's what's amazing, whatever it is.
Sure. So I wanted to ask you, what is the breaking point for a business owner for to get break out of prison planet? At what point do you recognize, oh my goodness, I need to speak to
Yeah.
Richard Walsh? How do I get in touch with him? It's ASAP. Who, please, somebody rescue me. When and the business cycle or business timeline does somebody need to reach out to you?
Usually they're hitting the $1 million a year gross revenue. Okay. They have between 5 and 15 employees and they're kind of stuck. They're stuck between 1 million and 3 million and they can't seem to grow past that. They're still doing too much in the business because that's when you can go 0 to 1 million all by yourself.
Right.
You don't need anyone's help. You can get to that. And it's not, I'm not saying it's not hard, but it's not hard. Right. That's an achievable goal quickly by
Right.
yourself. But when you start reaching 2 and 3, you can't do that alone. There's too many moving parts. You have to bring in too much work. And now you have to be organized to get past that mark. Otherwise, you are going to be on the hamster wheel of $2 million a year, doing 12 jobs at a time. And you're going to lose your mind. You're going to lose your family, everything else. You're never going to be able to leave. That's when people contact me. So my sweet spot is that 1 million to 10 million a year. That's when people really experience being stuck and they just don't know what to do next. There's nothing, I don't beat them up for anything because they just don't know. They were guys who took the risk and they built a business and they're doing $2 or $3 million a year. Man, that give them the big applause just for that. Right. That's awesome. But now you just need a coach. There's no professional sports team that doesn't have a multitude of coaches. Right.
Right.
They're the greatest players in the world, but they got someone coaching them. The coaches are who wins the game.
Right.
Right. So and I'm just a guide. I'll just come in and guide you to the next level. And that's what we need, right? We got to have a breakthrough there. So that's pretty much where I work with businesses that have been in business for 40 years and they do $30 million a year and we still help them. And you know, the old saying, you're never done learning.
Right.
If you stop
Never.
learning, you're going to have problems. That's when you're going to stagnate. So I'm going to coach you for 20 years, but there's always another level. There's always another person who's an expert in this or that to help a particular part of your business. So you really got to look for that help and don't be afraid to ask for help like I was for 20 years. My ego and my own narcissism was so big. I'm a Marine. I'm going to do this on my own. Twice as long, twice as hard. Yeah, I did it, but I had so many really brilliant people trying to help me, but I wouldn't take their advice because it has to be me. It was all about me. I don't operate like that anymore. And I tell my kids, you don't do what I did. You do what I do.
Correct.
You
You
know?
learn from what you've done.
Right.
So I wanted to ask you about you talk about the narcissism and your own ego getting in the way. So where do you think ethics and integrity falls into that? Because I'm sure as a Marines, you had to abide by these principles that they wanted to be second nature and be part of you. So it comes to mind, ethics and integrity is something that most soldiers focus on while they are serving, but you seem to have brought those out of the service into the workforce. But I guess my question is, when you go into these businesses, has ethics and integrity slipped by the wayside in the last few decades? Because the way we interact so different now. We're so focused on what our neighbors think because of social media. We can see what's inside the neighbor's house. So do you think that's a challenge? The fact that we're diminishing the strong ethics and the high integrity that we used to have as a society, is that influencing businesses as well?
I think it always has because and here's the thing, like right now, there is a lot of people doing bad business, but there's also people doing amazing business. Like they're focused on driving value to their customer. People love them. Their customers love them, right? They rave about it. Some of you might can go, who cares about that? But the culture they've created and their base who love them will do everything, right? Raving fans talk about them. So there's always people like that doing wonderful things. And people know the difference. You know, someone without integrity, you can smell it on them. They don't look you in the eye. They got a weak handshake. They got a bunch of stuff, right? They're talking stuff that doesn't make sense. So
Right.
you can smell that out right away, especially if you've been in business for a while. But what I want to do, and just like when I hire, and I teach our business to do this too, we look for three things. Okay. And this is what's important because you're building your business, right? If you want high integrity, good character, there has to be a process, right? We look for calling, character, and competency. Okay. Competency is number three. It's the lower of all three because that can always skill someone up, right? Yes, they need to know the base what they do, but I can always make them better. That's easy. Character. Okay. You get an adult coming to work for you, you aren't changing their character.
Mm-hmm.
That's above your pay grade. If
Mm-hmm.
they're 8, I got a chance. If they come as an 8-year-old, I could do something, but I can't. So they have to start with the right character. And the first one is calling, which means are they called to do this work? Or is this just a job for them where they want to make money per hour or whatever? Like, do they love to do what they do? If I have a customer service position in my strategic vision, or when I talk to them, I go, I just love working with people. I love people. So much fun solving the problems and taking care of them. Like, that's a person who's called for the position. I want that
Sure.
person, right? They have great character. They've got the competency, which I can also increase, right? If I had those three things, what a great place to start
What a
for a
great place.
high integrity, right? Just really people driven business, because you're going to have that purpose and they want to work for purpose, you know?
Absolutely. Well,
So,
that's fantastic. Go ahead.
no, that's it. That's it.
So I wanted to touch on the character and the competency because before we started recording, there was a topic we mentioned, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion. And of course, I am a woman with lots of pigmentation in my skin, melatonin, whatever you want to call it. But I am not one who's a proponent of that because I never want to leave anyone out. And so when this trend started happening, I really was observing it and trying to discern at what point do you sacrifice character and competency for what inclusion and what do you call it? Inclusion and diversity. And I know a lot of people are going to be repelled by this conversation, but somebody needs to have it. I would rather know that the person who's serving me is competent to do the job that I'm paying them to do. Whether you are serving me at the bank or whether you're serving me in the hospital surgery room, whether you're my attorney, whatever it is, I'd like to think that you are competent. So for me, when you are a business owner and there are certain stipulation and people are because there's some people who are so weak-minded, let me just say that. They will go with any trend of the day. I mean, you make sure if a squirrels is popular, they'll be like, oh, I support the squirrel. So thing for me is, at what point do we start making a decision to go with what our business needs versus what's popular? Because what you're saying is competency and integrity and all those in character. It is the opposite of what you call diversity hires. And again, someone has said to me, well, you should be very happy around this time because you're a woman and you check that box. And I was like, listen, that's not my story. That's not who I am. I would like to know, and I would feel better sleeping at night knowing that I've been hired for my skills and my intelligence versus because I check a box. So talk to me about that as you are, I mean, you're working with these, do these issues come up? Do you have a lot of people talking about this? Is this a topic that needs to be addressed more and more?
I
It's in
think,
small and medium-sized corporations. I know it's in big corporates, Fortune 500s, that's the only topic really, but it's being sacrificed, it's being put in the forefront while sacrificing many others. But tell me, what do you think? Is that something we're just ignoring? The truth is in our face, but we're just trying to ignore it?
yeah, I think again, we'll go back to why I work with smaller businesses because they can maneuver because they have a greater grip on reality and they're not controlled by BlackRock
Right.
or Vanguard. They're not being given marching orders on what they're going to do. Because I bet if you had them in a room by themselves, there'd be a whole different story. Okay. They're just doing what they're told. They don't have a choice. Do they really want incompetent people? Of course they don't. But they're being told what to hire. Right. So the smaller businesses, what I say is, again, we're looking for these qualifications. Right. If you can do what we need to be done and you're very good at it, you're welcome on the team. I'm not judging you by color. I'm not judging you by height. I'm not doing any of that
Gender.
stuff unless there's a requirement for the job. My son cannot be on presidential duty as a Marine security force, right? He can't be at the White House because he's not 6 foot tall. Is that fair? Darn right it's fair. You just saw why
Just
a
saw it.
week or two why. You are a human meat shield. You got to be bigger than the person you're protecting. You got to wrap them, hold them tight, and take bullets. Okay. You
This is
can't crawl on the ground. You can't be scared. You can't be
so
crawling. You
you're
can't be
doing
five
this,
five.
your gun, and
Yep.
like
Yep.
looking,
You
where do I
can't.
put this gun?
And scared, ducking. Like you're there to give your life. Okay. At my church, I'm the final line of defense for the pastor. If there's a problem, guess who gets to take the bullet? Me. And I'm good with that. Okay. The guy on the roof, people saw him, they're yelling. I wouldn't be yelling. I'd be going up the ladder. That's me. And I'm not armchair quarterback. And then I know who I am. If no one, if you call up no action, I'll take the action. I may die, but someone else is not going to die.
Absolutely.
Right. So we come back to the hiring and what you're looking for, that what you do is build out what you need for a successful business.
Mm-hmm.
What does that look like? You do not still today, thankfully, but that's today. You don't have to hire this way. They're making choices to hire this way. It's not a law. It's just like you said, Sandra, it's, do you really want to go to work where you feel like you're there because you're inadequate and they had to hire you? What does that do for your own self-worth?
Well, those people don't know. They're like, I got my paycheck, I'm good.
You're right. So I'd never hire those people, but I'm going to look, I'm going to build a
There are
business
full
that
of them
serves.
in DC, but go
Yeah.
ahead.
Oh yeah. Well, that's par for the course. And they make a lot of money.
They
being
do,
incompetent.
and we paid them.
That's right. I'm totally with you, but like we have to, as small business owners, we have to push back from that. I want qualified individuals. I want them to fit my culture. So we build strategic vision. They understand exactly what we do, every level in the company. We have a declaration of who we are, what we believe, everything else. You read that before you even get your first 5-minute phone call with us. And if you don't like it, okay, interview's off. We're good. Move along. Go work somewhere else. It's okay. But right now we have the ability to say that. And the companies need to do that. You need to declare what you believe in, what your
Absolutely.
vision is of your company, and what every single person in there does to benefit that vision of the company. And once you do that, people will say yes or no. There's not going to be a maybe. Let me come try it out. No, they're going to come because they work for a purpose, because they get quality feedback and recognition, and they make good money.
Absolutely.
The money thing is third.
Absolutely.
We give them the first two. The third is a given, right?
Absolutely.
But the first two, if you're able to give them purpose for working, not just making a dollar, and you tell them they're good, doing a good job, or you tell them they're doing a bad job and how to fix it, and then you recognize with everyone else how good they've done, they're there for the long haul and they want to come to work. I want people who want to be at work. And then I want people who want to go home and be with their families. I want them to do that too and be happy with their family, not miserable from a day of bad work.
Correct.
Right? So that's my workaround.
Absolutely.
For DEI. Okay.
Absolutely. But that goes to having a spiritual center. Some people may call it God, some people may call it the universe, maybe, just whatever name you put on it, it's in the center. And so if you have a spiritual center, you will take pride in doing what you're supposed to be doing. And I don't think these type of special hirings allow someone to thrive, to cultivate what they were meant to be, because they end up being bad at something when it's not their calling at all. I mean, I really want to be a Hollywood actress, right? And so I'm going to tell Angelina Jolie, no, sorry, you don't get the job. I get the job. Except the box office is going to suffer because nobody's going to come see the movie that I'm in. So maybe one person, my mom.
I think what people need to understand, I think is where people get it all wrong. Everyone, every single person on this planet created by God, we're all equal in value.
Absolutely.
Okay. But we are not equal in ability.
Absolutely.
That's what they're not separating the two. Like, I want to go play on a NBA basketball team, but my vertical is about 4 inches. Okay. And I can't make a free throw. You think I'm going to get on the team?
Absolutely.
You don't have the ability to do this. That's okay.
Correct. Well,
you have the ability to do other things,
Yeah.
Your
son is a perfect example, because, what you wish to do, especially when somebody's life is at stake here, not here to make fun of anyone. So let's call employees the children, and let's call the hiring manager or the HR, whatever, the adult. It is your responsibility to make sure that the children are adequately prepared to take on the task. If you're putting these people in a line of work that is going to endanger their lives, like if you're too short to protect, someone, I don't want to keep talking about it. I don't want to be those people getting clickbaits. I don't care about any of that, but I want people in the audience to actually get information from this conversation. So I want to say that also make sure that you are serving the hire by being able to recognize what they would be good at, not what you think can give you good headlines, like you hired this number of people, that number of people. So tell me in closing, what are some key advantages and takeaways from the book? When you talk about owner prison, think about if somebody picks up the book, what are they to take away from it?
So what they're going to see in there, and I do weave my story throughout the whole book from all those years, but what they're going to learn is they're going to learn actionable steps on how to actually, there's three parts. There's 0 to a million, a million to 5 million, 5 million to 10 million. How to scale, how to build your business so you're ready for those levels. It'll walk you through those steps. It'll give you the practical applications to make that happen, to make you actually be able to develop a plan and go through that. Very, very important. Now, let me hit one other thing when we're talking
Yes.
about that ability stuff. Think of it this way. You met someone and you're going to begin a relationship, right? Start dating, whatever it is. Do you want the first thing to be a lie? That's what that, when you're not competent for the position,
Correct.
that's what that is. You started the whole relationship with a lie. Now, what do you have to do with a lie? You have to maintain a lie. Come with the next lie to support the last lie. So I like to use that analogy too. Like, why do you want to be on the receiving end of a lie?
Definitely.
So,
No. But but then it depends. That will also tell who the owner is. But the audience here, they are honest and people with integrity who want to grow, who want to expand, and to want to build a better world. So that said, give a couple of practical tools for the audience to take away after this very complex conversation. We've gone all over the place. I keep focusing on DC because the audience knows how much I love to apologize. I'm so tempted. There's so much temptation for me to go up. I do have a question for you. So are you ready for the changing of the guards in November? Are you ready for whatever happens? Are you fearful about any of it? Are you comfortable? Are you buying an island somewhere away from the United States? What's your plan?
no, I'm not a quitter. I'm not going to run. Okay. From a place I'm born and raised in, and I love it. I'm not going anywhere. I'm prepared for many things. I'll just say that. Okay.
I'm
I
coming to
train.
stay with you. I feel
I,
you have a bunker. I have a
I,
feeling, Mr. Walsh, that you've got a bunker, and make a little room for me. I am coming there. But tell me, as a Marine, does it break your heart to see what's happening in this country?
it does. And having a son in the Marine Corps and with us on a 6-year tour, yeah, it's concerning. It really is. I've seen that. Again, it's the beauty of one of the good things about being older. You've seen a lot of change, and it's not for the better, but it's never finished. As I tell people, if I can breathe, if I can take one breath, I'm still in the fight. I
I'm in
train
the
every
fight.
day. I keep my skills up every day. I'm a dangerous gentleman.
This country is good at its core. It's just a few bad apples that just have to disintegrate. They
Mhm.
have to either come to Jesus moment, right?
Mhm.
Repent their sins,
Mhm.
or just go away quietly, because we don't
Step
want any
down.
kind of violence. But this has
Step
been the
down.
Frankly Speaking with Sendra D podcast, and I would love to hear from you. I think this is probably the most political conversation I've had because I've just been triggered all the last few weeks. It's just like there's some things you just cannot not talk about. I've been really good because I didn't name names. We didn't name names. We did not point fingers, and I didn't want to blame or shame on this podcast. I do want to inform and educate, and it has been a delight to speak to Richard Walsh, who is the coach and CEO and author of Escape the Owner Prison. And it's a delight. And of course, all my guests have an open invitation. Just let me know when you're going to come back. You can reach him. You can find him on Sharpen Your Spear Coaching. Richard Walsh, CEO. Thank you. It's been a delight. And any final thoughts?
Don't lose hope. Build your business. If you're in business, build it, but build it the right way. Build it to withstand anything that's coming down the pike, because something's always going to come, whether it's political, non-political, weather, it doesn't matter. you're always going to run into adversity in business. And that's just part of being an entrepreneur. You're going to face it. You'll overcome the challenge. You'll move on. You'll be stronger for it. So just don't lose heart.
And my favorite fighter, Mr. Gandhi, said, be the change wish to see in the world. So if you see something broken, ask yourself, how can I fix this or help the cause that's going to rebuild or fix it? Thank you again. Can you give them how they can reach you? Tell the audience how they can reach you.
Okay, because you're watching Sendra, I want you to go to sharpenthespearcoaching.com, go down to the contact page, send me a 1-sentence email. It says, hey, Richard, we saw you on Sendra's show, and we'd love to get your audiobook for free. Could you send that to me? And I will send you the entire Escape the Owner Prison audio file. I'll send it to you. You can have the book. And here's the best part, Sendra. I'm reading it. So it'll be like 2.5 hours of me reading to you. How cool is that?
How beautiful that is. Only on a Frankly Speaking with Sendra D podcast. I'm so grateful that you were able to join us this time. Of course, don't miss him too much because I have no doubt he'll be back again. There are so many things for him to talk about. How to scale a business. There are so many other things put your comments on the bottom so that we know exactly which points you wanted us to emphasize and elaborate on. Again, until the next one, make it a great day. Thank you for being here with me, Richard.
Thank you. It's great being here.
Oh, and don't forget, subscribe to Frankly Speaking with Sendra D's podcast and join us every week as we uncover the stories of those who triumphed over life-altering challenges to achieve not just financial success, but a richer, a deeper, a more altruistic life. It's about time we redefine what it means to be a truly affluent individual. Don't you agree? So come and join me. And let's be unstoppable on this journey called life. Because here, affluence isn't just a buzzword. It's a path to waking up to your authentic being.